So this time we're watching one of the first animes that I ever saw. Street Fighter 2 is a great movie. It's much better than the live action one. As much as I like the live action one, this version it definitely gives you more of what you would want from a Street Fighter movie.
This is probably the best Street Fighter movie that there is. It just has so much more of what you want, as opposed to what the live action one was. This is a lot more street fighting. And yeah, I just really love this movie. Granted, the Sonny Chiba Street Fighter movies, those are probably even more realistic than what the Street Fighter movies were. But, hey, that one doesn't follow the games at all because it's a completely different thing. And it's also really awesome as well. So as far as the plot goes, we are following four main characters, really. We follow Ryu, Ken, Chun Li, and Guile. They're going to be our heroes for this. They range from being total badasses to completely worthless. Each character from Street Fighter 2 makes an appearance. Some of them I wonder why they make an appearance. Like, I don't know why DJ's in this. I have no idea why Zangief and Blanca are in here. I honestly keep forgetting that Fei Long is in this movie, much like I keep forgetting that Zangief and Blanca are in the movie. We really don't need all the characters that they have, but at least they're all kind of here and they do something and they look like they would in the games. Our plot is basically Bison is trying to recruit a bunch of street fighters, either by, paying them off or by just brainwashing them into helping him achieve whatever the hell he wants to achieve. It's not really made clear here. I'm guessing it's just world domination because, of course it's going to be world domination. But it's pretty strange because I don't know exactly why he needs the street fighters. I feel like he could get an assassin anywhere else, which seems to be what he's using the street fighters for, or assassins. At least the ones that he's brainwashing, that's what he's using them for. It's kind of strange. No one here seems to really know about Shadow Law, aside from Chun Li and Guile. And the other characters kind of learn about it, but it doesn't really matter to them. The plot's kind of weird, to be honest. Bison spends a lot of his time trying to find Ryu after Ryu beats the crap out of Sagat here. And that's kind of his goal, is to find Ryu. He finds Ken, and then they decide they're going to recruit Ken and then use Ken to get to Ryu, or kill Ryu because they've already brainwashed Ken. And then the other characters are just kind of there. And Chun Li and Guile are trying to stop Bison. I know that doesn't sound exciting, but it really is.
I wish the plot focused on like a tournament, like if this was Bloodsport and either Ken or Ryu were our main characters and they were kind of like literally if they just remade Bloodsport with Ken and Ryu as the two main characters, that would have been a lot better. They do show that there's a prize fight in this later on between Dalsim and Blanca, but the focus is just on this weird Shadow Law stuff, and it's great, it's fun, but I would have preferred it to be like the actual tournament like you see in the video games.
In place of a tournament, we get these few short fight scenes. Now, there are a lot of them in this, and they're all really well done, but it just kind of feels like they're not really connected. Like, we get some dumps of exposition, and then a fight, and then a dump of exposition, then a fight, then a scene which probably doesn't really need to be there, and then another fight. It makes the movie move along really fast, but it's just kind of like, okay, where's all of this going? And it's kind of hard to tell just, what's happening at some point in time during this. you do get a sense that this is how a lot of these guys are making their money. You see some shots of Fei Long here, like on a movie set, or at least getting yelled at by his director, so you know he's doing something. Ryu is just kind of like this wandering person, and he just sort of goes around between, I think they say, like Thailand, India, and China, just training. And then you've got Ken, who's doing his, going to all the tournaments and everything. But there are other characters that you just don't quite understand what they're doing because they're not really the main focus of this story. And I should probably mention these parts here with the weird cyborg people, who are just robots. I shouldn't be calling them cyborgs, because they're not. This is how Bison is just collecting data on all of these Street Fighters, so he can figure out which ones are the strongest, so he can use them for whatever. And you see these guys pop up throughout the entire movie. Only one time, when they run into DJ, does anybody do anything to the robots. People seem pretty comfortable with the fact that there's people that clearly look like they've been cybernetically enhanced just wandering around. I don't know why no one's asking questions about it, but they really aren't. It's kind of weird. It's funny in some ways, because how would you not notice this? But in others, it's just kind of strange as to why nobody cares about this. And it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense why they're gathering data on all these people, just to kind of have data on them, because they don't recruit everybody. It's a very weird part of this that I get why it's here, but it just feels strange. And it feels like it should be a bigger deal and people should be more upset about it, but they're just not. And I mentioned this earlier, but this is the part, like at the very beginning, where we see just what Bison is doing with these Street Fighters after he brainwashes them. This is really Cammy's only appearance in the movie, so, thanks for coming, Cammy. You can go hang out with T-Hawk and DJ and Dalsum, because you're not going to be in this ever again. Or at least not in any meaningful way. I think she's, recorded later. But, yeah, she's been brainwashed by Bison before the movie starts. She shows up, kills this politician, and then she's just kind of gone. She immediately gets captured. I'm not really sure why they let her get captured. Bison doesn't try to save her, and she's just out of the movie entirely after this. It's kind of weird, but, I'm glad Cammy showed up for a few minutes. She's another person I tend to forget about when watching this.
So let's talk a little bit about our several main characters that we're following here. And yeah, a little bit about the side characters as well.
Ken and Ryu are really the two big heroes in all of this. They're the ones that we spend the most time really learning stuff about. And yeah, they're really the best characters in this goddamn movie. Even though Ryu has some pretty stupid lines, they're just not delivered very well. And Ken's fine. He gets kidnapped, but, it's okay. It's not his fault. They're really the best two characters in this film. And a lot of their backstory, or at least all of their backstory, is told through these flashbacks and everything. Both Ken and Ryu have them. It's pretty awesome to watch this, because you kind of see how these two got to know each other, or at least watch them fight each other. You get the impression that these two haven't talked to each other in years. Ever since their training stopped, they just went their separate ways and never seemed to try to get in touch with each other. Ken definitely could have gotten back in touch with Ryu if he really wanted to, but I guess he just wanted to go back to making a ridiculous amount of money and hanging out with his, I guess, girlfriend. She reminds me of Miriam from Double Dragon. Thankfully, nothing terrible happens to her in this, but yeah, it just kind of feels like if these guys really wanted to hang out and still be friends, they could, but Ken's off living his just incredibly lavish lifestyle and beating people up for fun and winning tournaments, whereas Ryu's just wandering around between three countries and just constantly training and occasionally getting into fights. The movie does do a good job of at least explaining, yeah, these guys got really close during their time while they were training together. We don't really get a time frame of how long that lasted or how long they've been apart or even who's better. And we don't really need to know who's better in this. We just know that they join forces at the end because they're really good friends and they beat the crap out of Bison. Eventually they beat the crap out of Bison. It's a really awesome fight scene at the very end, and it takes up like a good chunk of the movie. But it's definitely worth the wait once you get there. And that brings us to our next two main characters, who are kind of main characters. It's Chun Li and Guile. Now, Guile's completely freaking worthless in this. He does absolutely nothing of note the entire time. Most of his scenes are him like driving in a car to someplace, or being late, or trying to get somewhere. He pops up at the very end to lead Bison to Ryu, and yeah, he tries to fight Bison, but ends up destroying Honda's house and getting his ass handed to him. Guile is the worst goddamn character in this movie. It would be different if he was like, you know, T-Hawk or Balrog or Fei Long or, you know, Zangief and Blanca, where I forget that they're in the movie at times, but we're stuck with Guile here, and he sucks. I don't know what happened. Like, I guess they had to have some character just not be that great out of the four heroes, but he's awful. Like, he's just absolutely worthless. Guile spends his time palling around with Chun Li, and honestly just kind of not being super helpful. But yeah, Chun Li is the best. She has the best fight scene in the entire movie, at least in my opinion. These two do at least show up and try to help out DJ, and DJ's only frickin' appearance in this. And they kind of spread the word about the cyborgs that are going around, the robots, whatever. The weird, creepy mech things that are following people around and gathering data for no goddamn reason. So, yeah, they're following those people around, and, yeah, Guile and Chun Li are just, you know, they're trying to stop Bison, kind of, but not. I really don't know how they're stopping Bison, because they know that he's terrible. Chun Li is supposed to be operating as like an Interpol agent, and Guile's still like US military, but they just let him kind of do whatever he wants. It's sort of weird, but whatever. Anyway, they end up bonding because they both had lost people along the way. So Guile lost his partner. Chun Li obviously lost her dad. That's kind of pretty important for Street Fighter lore. And so they both want revenge on Bison for just the different crap that he did. These two are the only ones that really seem to care about Bison. It's kind of strange, because you see Shadow Law committing crimes and like murdering people in front of other Street Fighters like Honda and Ryu. And I think Fei Long knows about them as well. But nobody else really seems to know or care about what Shadow Law is doing. And like I said, nobody seems to notice the goddamn robots wandering around. Anyway, Chun Li fights Vega, and it's the best goddamn fight in the movie, at least in my opinion. Like, it's just really awesome. And Guile's only contribution to this is the fact that he's trying to get a hold of her for some reason. I don't remember why he's trying to get a hold of her, but you just have the phone ringing throughout the fight, and eventually, like, they knock it off the hook. Guile hears what's going on, and then drives faster to get there. And he shows up like right after the fight's over, after Chun Li's already won, and he thankfully gets her to the hospital because she is messed up at the end of this. I do want to mention they get everybody's moves in, so you get to see all the moves from the different games in this movie. It's pretty awesome the way they do it, and it's just kind of why I feel like this works better as an animated film, because you have the actors who just can't really pull off a lot of these moves, obviously, because they're not meant to be performed by a normal person. So in an anime or in a cartoon, you can actually do it, and it looks really good when they do. Of all of the mini-bosses in this, Vega's the only one that really does anything of note. Sagat has his fight at the very beginning, and then he's kind of out of the movie. Balrog fights Honda, kind of. That was kind of a waste of both of them at the end. But Vega's the only one who really gets into a fight, and it's a great fight, and you get to see just how much of an asshole he really is. Like, these two mess each other up by the end of this. I could watch this scene just over and over again, or at least this fight over and over again, because it's just so well done. It's really awesome. Stuff comes back into it, like Chun Li's blood loss comes back into it later, because she's just getting cut to hell by Vega, and she tries to take him out at the end, and she gets a little dizzy, and then it's almost like an accident that she wins. Like, she just gets lucky and manages to take him out. Watching this, it's like they have answers for everything the other person is doing. It's almost like you're watching the video game and you have two players who are both really good and they're just going back and forth at each other. But yeah, she straight up murders them at the end, which is another thing that was kind of shocking to me when I saw this. People just up and die during this, and I wasn't really prepared for that while I was watching cartoons when I was younger, and that's kind of why this was sort of like a gateway anime for me. So those were the big characters. Let's get into some of the other ones.
There were side characters that I honestly forgot were in this movie while I was writing out the script, and every time I watch this movie, I keep forgetting that they're there until they get their few seconds to shine. Some of these characters don't even get a few seconds, like DJ, who just is there, throws like a couple of kicks, and then is out of the movie forever. There are so many characters in this that I honestly just keep forgetting about them. I forgot about, Zangief and Blanca, their brief fight in here. Every time I turn on this movie, I expect to just see new people in it. Like, all of a sudden there'll just be some characters from Street Fighter Alpha or from Final Fight in this, with no reason why they're there. They'll just pop up. And if they're already in the movie and I just didn't notice them, that wouldn't surprise me either.
Honda is really the only minor character who gets, a lot of time to shine. He fights Dalsim earlier, like when he meets up with Ryu. They actually have quite a bit of interaction and apparently just become roommates somewhere in, I think, India or China. I'm not really sure where they're supposed to be, but they're hanging out, they're having a great time, just training together in a place that doesn't really look all that great, but whatever. And like I mentioned, Guile shows up and leads Bison to them, and this is kind of like the last 20 minutes of the movie. I feel a little bad because E Honda gets built up, and the only thing he really does is get in a fight with Balrog, which I get, like, it couldn't have been the focus, so it's not given as much time to shine, but with the amount of time that they give to Honda, and the fact that he's just kind of built up in a much better way than Guile was, his fight is just laughably short. Balrog's another character who did a little bit in this. You see him when they go to Vegas and right before, the Zangief fight, and during the Zangief fight as well. But he kind of shows up here, punches E Honda a couple of times. I know I keep adding an E in front of Honda, but I should just keep calling him Honda. Whatever. So they punch each other a couple of times, and then Honda tackles him, and the two of them end up falling off a cliff, where Honda's the only one that really comes out relatively unscathed. He shows up at the end of the fight after Bison's already done, and he's carrying Balrog and kind of dragging Guile along because Guile got his ass handed to him. It's kind of a shame, but whatever. So this last fight scene, I think I mentioned it. It's the last 20 minutes of the movie, and it's really a couple of fights going on all at the same time. You've got Evil Ken showing up because he's been brainwashed by Bison after he gets kidnapped. And this happened a while ago in the movie. But you have him fighting Ryu, and throughout the whole thing, Ken is having flashbacks, because I guess the brainwashing didn't work as well on him as it did on Cammy, or something like that. It is mentioned by Bison's weird, creepy scientist dude that Ken isn't totally brainwashed yet, but, Bison doesn't care. He just needs to go get Ryu. I'm not sure why he couldn't have just waited a couple of weeks, but, whatever. I guess, because he was tracking Guile the entire time, so he's able to, I guess he figured Guile was going there, so he chases after Guile, and that leads to this whole fight. And he ends up just beating the crap out of Ken after kind of getting the drop on him. And this is where, much like in the games, Bison is kind of a cheap boss. You can beat him, it's perfectly fine, but he's just as cheap in this as he is in the games in some cases. Before all this happens, though, Guile has to get his ass handed to him. And he definitely gets his ass handed to him. It's just not even fair. And it kind of goes back to Guile being just completely freaking worthless in this movie. But yeah, at the end of this, Ken gets back to normal, is paralyzed or something, magically heals his legs. I honestly don't know why or how that happened. They both get into a fight with Bison. Bison stops using some of his psycho powers, kind of, I guess. He says he wants to fight them on their level, so he stops using some of his powers. Ken and Ryu get the best of him. They end up, shooting a double Hadouken at him, and he gets launched into his plane, and his plane blows up. So that's the end of Bison. But Shadow Law's still around, and they still have their cool secret base that's inside of a mountain with a Buddha head on top of it, or in front of it. Which makes me wonder why nobody's ever found this place before, because you'd think there would be rumors about, planes flying into a mountain and the mountain just kind of opening up, but whatever, it's a movie, we're not supposed to care about that. Then Guile and the military go attack the place, and apparently Shadow Law is defeated, or at least that one part of them is defeated. It's kind of a weird ending. And then Guile and Chun Li take credit for everything that, Ryu and Ken did. Because of course they do. It's kind of weird, the ending. I don't know. If it just, It's why I don't really think the plot should have gone the way that it did. It's still a great movie and everything. I love the animation, love the soundtrack. The fights are awesome. But there's just some weird stuff going on with the plot that I'm just... I don't really like it that much. It's fun, but yeah, it's just kind of a screwy story.
Part of me wishes this movie was more like Kickboxer or Bloodsport. And Yeah, I wish it went in that direction instead of the way that it does now. Because they try to build up certain characters, they try to give them backstory, and they just kind of forget about a whole bunch of others. It just seems weird to me. It's an awesome movie, but there's certain things in it where I'm like, I don't know why that scene is there. I don't know why they put that in. It kind of feels like they were just padding it out to be an hour and a half long. Despite all of its flaws, I love this movie. It is so much fun to watch, even if there are some things in there where I just don't like or I just don't understand why they're there. Uh, like I said, this is my favorite Street Fighter movie. It's it's just so much fun to watch.
So anyway, guys, I figured I'd give you some of my incredibly awful fighting game skills here at the end. I'm not really totally sure what's going on with the graphics. I think the cartridge is a little messed up that I was using. Anyway, that's gonna wrap everything up. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd really love to hear back from you. Yeah, so that I guess that's gonna wrap it up, which I should have done already. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. If you have a suggestion for a movie for me to review for next time, just let me know in the comments below. And yeah, have a great day, everybody.
Yoga fire! Yoga!